Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Welcome to NDISCO'S Village Meeting podcast. This is the podcast on African society and culture. And your hostess, or host as some people might prefer, is Dr. Maslina and M.OPARAOJI. This is episode 26, series 2. Today we continue the journey on um, what I had captioned the African child complaints. These are some of the things that I gather when I talk to our hyphenated diasporan African children, as well as those that also reach out to me from Homestead. Um, and it doesn't matter the tribe, it doesn't matter the economic background. These are young ones who really needed somebody to talk to, and I always thank God for giving me that ability to listen. And some of them I always mention I've never seen, I have never met, and may never meet or see. But I make time to pick up their calls. And so today we are in congruence with the Father's Day celebration this weekend. We decided to tackle one of their complaints, which is the relationships between their dads and those children or those young ones. So today we're talking about the African dad. The question we are putting forward is, do these dads have a good relationship with their children, especially the sons or the son? So today we are going to focus on the sons because they are actually the vulnerable ones, despite what everybody says about the female ones being the weakest group of people, or that they need to be protected more. I think sometimes we overlook that our young men also need us, our boys need us more than we can ever think about or think of. So let's get into it now and see what it is we are going to talk about. So the question today is actually asking Dad, what is your relationship with your children, especially your son or sons? So I'm talking about plural and singular here because there are people with just one and people with many. And there are also people with no sons, but they reach out to other young men. So we all know that raising children in today's society can be challenging, to say the least, especially the young ones that are males. It's a complex and challenging topic to discuss. We all know that because it's a touchy one. This is not to place guilt on anyone or any dads out there. It's just a situation that has come to play, and we want to explore that in order to have everybody happy. But at the same time, this could be considered a simple topic. It depends on who you ask. Um, we all agree, though, that the roles of dads, father's role in the lives of their children is very pivotal, is very important, especially for the boys. Um, Again, we all have these many mixed messages about raising young men, and again, who is a good man? What does it take to create or raise a good man? It's all about masculinity, but that's just a tip of the iceberg. It's a beginning. Each culture, though, when you dig deep into it, also have their own approaches on this topic, which is different when you ask. But for this discussion today, we are looking into the universal um, approach that everybody backs on raising children. Again, when I talk about all this, I go back to the book I wrote on raising an African child in America, but also basing it broadly to children raised everywhere. You see that their issues are almost the same everywhere, despite how we think one area is more privileged than the others. They are not in most cases. Um, and as we peel back these onions of issues with our young ones as we go on with this complaints, we will find out that they all suffer from the same, uh, issues and stuff. So we know by research, though, that for the child, especially the young man, to thrive, he needs an active, present, and engaged dad. He needs a father figure or a positive role model in his life. Or if there are many of them, all the sons' lives, every child out there that is male. Dads, to build expectations that strengthen the relationship with their children, are encouraged to consider and express what they expect from the children, whether it's in school, sports, the chores that they have to make or do to help the household, the faith they belong in, friendships, and all. Um, they want to know what do you think. It's not a laissez-faire thing to just let the child raise him or herself, but they need guidance. They need rules. Following the rules is another thing altogether, but make sure the rules are always there. So let's look into the complaint of what goes on. Okay. The African child, these are their complaints. Are not this is just a few. A high percentage reported this, but let me get that out there first of all that not every dad is being complained about. Some dads that they may not be perfect, but they are doing the best they can. So their complaints include the following: dads are never home, and when they are, they do not engage. They, doing something else. They've been out all day, and then when they come back, the young ones, especially the males, are expecting them to just sit with them and say, "How was your day?" and all that, but that never happens. The children, the boys that they deal with their moms more. Mom will be the one completing applications to colleges. Mom will be the ones to take them to the hospital, almost everything. And that's a complaint. Dads place more importance in money making, and they have this problem of their dad working around the clock and then to send every penny home to the ancestral homes, whichever it is, whether it's Ghana, whether it's Mali or Nigeria, and building big houses. And their complaint is that okay, their fathers are building these houses, hoping that their children, will go back there to live. That's a different topic we'll talk about later, but it may not happen. Okay. So the focus is on now. Few of the dads never say, I love you, especially to their sons. They may have said that to their daughters, but the sons are complaining if they never say that to them. Most of them, not all of them. Another complaint is that African dads seldom take the time to talk about the village and what goes on. So they are told, okay, we are, for example, you're from Nigeria, you are from, this Olo in Imo State, da da da. But they don't get there to sit down with their dads to dig deep into what is it that made up or makes up this community that you talked to me about. What was it like you're growing up there and all that? Some of them do tell the stories, but majority of them complain that their dads never do. Even when the children travel with their parents to Africa, for example, they do not get to show anything much. These children complain of staying in their houses unless when somebody takes them out somewhere and then brings them back. They get bored if there's nothing to do. Um, they one of them says that what the parents know better is to call them out whenever any visitors came to say hello. And these visitors turn around to make fun of them, like, can't you, greet me in Igbo or greet me in, any other language out there. They get embarrassed. Is that how you eat? Is that how you sit? Is that what, they just complain about how they grew up. And these children are getting frustrated with that. These visits are found, and in between that they may go every other 2 years or every 5 years, and when they come back, it's almost like new. So there's a complaint. The African child, especially the son, would like to bond with their dad to get to hear more about their country, their ancestry, past stories, how their parents grew up. But this doesn't happen. Instead, they are reminded to go do their homework. Say, some of them don't like the idea that the African parent is more interested in good grades than, what they think and what is going on with them. The complaints continue. As it is against culture to bring home friends, especially girls. The boys complain about dating. It's hard for them to find someone to marry because it becomes a hassle, especially when the African parent is saying, okay, you got to marry within your race or within your, culture, within all that stuff. But it's hard to bring any friends home for them to see who they are going with. And this complaint is not just only on the side of the boys, it's also on the side of the girls, that they get embarrassed because the parents might, start there and then in front of this person to really talk talk down on them or shout on them. But at the same time, some of them want to bring these friends home, so as to show their parents to compare A and B before they decide on one to go with. So whichever way they feel that they can win. The African parents sometimes say something, they say something else and do something else right in front of the children. So they feel that the mixed messages, uh, you got to do this. This is it's all talk. Because when you say they do this and do that, then you're doing the same thing you're asking them to do. That brings confusion. Okay. When you say to them, don't lie, for example, and in front of them, you're lying to your friends, they don't take well to that. The African child does so much to please his or African parent all the time. But when they make one mistake, oh, nobody will hear the last of it. So, especially when they get to be compared with their siblings, their friends, their neighbors, and everything, they really gets them worried, and they don't like that. The African parent expects their children to behave exactly like their parents growing up. But their parents forget, these African parents forget that they grew up in a different era and different environments. So some of the times when they compare that, these children, um, they are confused. They don't know what to do because sometimes they don't feel that their parents understand the environment they find themselves or the era that they're growing up with and all the growing pains that go with that. Okay. They try to enforce their thoughts, the parents' thought on the children, and that doesn't sit well with them. Most of the complaints shared, and there are many of them, like I said, we can continue on this next time on the list of what their pet peeves are. And funny thing, sometimes, people think, oh, it's just these children in America or in Britain or Canada or in Russia or Timbuktu. Some of the people that I hear these complaints from also live in the cities within these African countries. For example, some of the complaints are also coming from, uh, some of the individuals living in maybe Lagos or Owerri in the cities, or Abuja in Nigeria, for example. And it could be in Kumasi, Ghana, you know. So it's not just these children that in diaspora, it's also the one within the cities, because parents, for whatever reasons, are pursuing something else, and the expectation of their kids are different from theirs. And we're not condemning anybody. We are not judging anybody. We're just saying what is being said out there. So the question is, when do sons, or even all children in particular, need their dads most? Um, I will say from birth, and they have voiced that, we always need our dads. Always. From when we, are born in this life, we don't know anything else but them. And the need is mutual and is ever expected to the end. And parents also, I know I'm not going to speak for them, but I think that parents also need their children, always. As a male counterpart, in the family, growing up is a complex and challenging time for both the young sons and dads to navigate. We all know that. No, I keep telling the young ones, when your parents um, gave birth to you, there was no blueprint out there as to how to raise you. And so did their parents. And you will also see that when you have your own children, that there's no blueprint. You just go and do the best you can. And so there's this agreement between the parent and the child of how to navigate. And this is what we are saying, how we're trying to get to. It actually does not stop needing each other, especially the children needing the parents, does not stop at teenage or young adult life, but continues to old age for both. Sometimes you hear fellow parents saying, oh, I've raised him or her. They're of age now, they've come out of college or something, or they have had their own children, so they don't need me. They, excuse me, will always need you. They will need you to help them know what to do with the children that they are, bearing. They will always sound your advice. Actually, at the old age, and documentations are out there and research that they need you more um, at this age as they grow older. It must be noted also that it's a period when the young starts to individuate. What do we mean by that? That when they start trying to find their own identity outside of your hold as a dad or mom, that is what we call the individuation. They are individuating, they're making their own, having their own lives. The young ones at this stage, they hunger for independence, even as they still seek your relationship. So the mere fact that they're finding their own feet doesn't mean they don't need you. They will need you. They will thrive on that relationship if you don't go away. They have far-reaching emotional impact. And as a parent, you know as well that, they will need you. Yeah, sometimes they feel that, you hear them say things as if they know better. That's individuation. They don't. They are really navigating, especially the male child. Okay. So, we know, and we've been hearing that growing up is complex. Okay. It is crucial to discuss how important it is for adults, dads to father their sons and sons to be fathered by their dads. So, how do we, in this crucial point, how do we make sure these relationships go on or are encouraged? So, there are a few points to that. Every child needs affirmation from dad, especially the male child. Yes. Affirmation means what? As a child wonders, they wonder if he or she, in this case, will ever have what it takes to be a man or woman. Let them hear it from you, dad or mom, especially the male child, hearing from dad to say, yes, okay, you are capable of anything. You're telling them they are a great gift to this world, that they have what it takes to navigate this world, that you are a proud dad. That's what they want to hear. If they still need some adjustment to increase their efforts, if they're not where you really expect them to be, still affirm them first, then adjust. Okay. So please do so instead of being overcritical, silent, passive, or absent. So when a dad like you does all these that I have said, like being overcritical, silent, passive, or absent, the child is forced to fill in the blank with doubts of his or her own ability. So the child, especially the son, a boy or a male, is left with an invisible void in his life, and also to the girls. But today we're focusing on the boy, the male child with his dad, that he will try to fill up. They try to fill up this void with conquests or accomplishments that they feel is what could make you happy. But no matter how successful they become, or whatever they pour into that effort to feel your affirmation, especially that hole may never fill up until you say, I'm proud of you. So you're doing it, you can do it. For example, when dad says something like, son or daughter, you are weak, you are a loser, I wish you were more like your brother or sister, you are such a disappointment. These phrases are usually whenever an event occurs, like report cards, sports completion, things, events, where they are comparing with each other or competing with some other person. But this is where the adult forgets. Every child just wants to know if he or she has what it takes to face life's challenges and rules. They may not be as good as everybody else, but they are making attempts. So the affirmative answer is needed before their girlfriends say it to them, or their boyfriends say it to them, or friends or peers, um, or an achievements. They want to hear that from their dad or their own parents, um, before any other crowd out there, before somebody else brings in that failure connotation to blur their vision. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Dads especially need to show vulnerability. It is okay to share with your children, especially your sons, that you are struggling and that you are hurting. So this is very important, this second bullet, because sometimes the man looks so macho, the dad, they're acting like nothing happens. But you forget that some of these children are very, very observant, especially as they are growing. They see. Again, this is where they say, oh, whatever you are telling them is not the right thing or the correct thing. They observe and they see, even if you don't voice it. So this is where we encourage you to tell them as dads that you hope to get through. Yes, you are hurting, but you will get through whatever it is. Um, Let them know how it hurts. Share that a reason for telling them about your situation is so that they can know that life for a man in this world is sometimes very difficult. That there is no need to pretend otherwise. One of the toxic dimensions of society is that we tell our young ones that real men don't cry and they do not show weakness. That's not true. The sons, especially, are told to be strong and are discouraged from sharing their feelings. That is not good. It's not good for mental health. It's not good for anything else. Crying is for the girls, they say. So this simple teaching accounts for the suicide rate, and people don't know that in teen boys being 5 times higher than girls of the same age. Let them cry. After all, when they were giving birth to, if they didn't cry, nobody would have picked them up. Okay. According to the daddude.com, and I will summarize, the best solution is for dads to model vulnerability to their sons. By doing so, they show their young sons that manhood need not hide. And moreover, it has been documented that people who feel close enough to someone they can unburden their struggles with radically increase their mental and physical health, capacity for achievement, life satisfaction, and even how long they will live. This is from at the daddude.com. So let's examine the third one. Dad, we say to you, please be around some more. We know you're working hard. You got to put the food on the table and help many others. And the list goes on and on. But make time to ask, especially your sons, what's really happening in their lives. They need to that. They need you to ask that. The pressures at home and school tend to tell our kids to man up, grow up, be independent, and to keep their problems to themselves. We've seen this happening in our society every day. Yet, almost every young one I have spoken to in my talk with them, like I shared earlier, sometimes they tell me they long to share their deepest secrets and fears with dad. But when dad is not there, they call somebody like me and some other people, but they want to talk to you, dad. They rightly suspect this will make them feel less alone if they do that. Most of them want to desperately say to you, dad, to please spend more time with them. They want you to ask them about their friendships, the girl they like, their life. For those of them working, their work. Those of them who have careers or professions, to ask them, how is it going? Excuse me. They want you to listen to them express their vulnerabilities. So there is a myth out there stating that girls are emotional and guys are rational. But let me tell you this. Every human being is rational and every human being is emotional. So let's not pile that on the boys saying that they are rational, they shouldn't, share their vulnerabilities. They should talk. We all have feelings we need to learn to express to people we trust. And they will trust your dad. They trust your dad. Another myth is that many dads think that they need to be around maybe when their kids are small, but as soon as their sons start growing up, to need them less. No, they don't need you less at any time actually of their life. They don't. Okay. The opposite is the case. The truth is that your son needs to talk to you more, but he will be less likely to. You know that individuates, period. They want to, show that they can show that it doesn't mean they don't need you. This is when you start asking the questions. How are you doing, son? Okay. Um, he will wait for the right time to talk, but he finds it easier if you guys were talking all the time. It is harder when you never talk and you expect him to talk. And when he really wants to talk, he takes his time to know when the right time will be. And if you are not around when he is ready to talk, the chance gets lost. So now you see why we're saying keep talking. Sometimes when you keep talking, things will come out. This is the time they need to be asked how they are. Really, really, how are you? How are you doing? Okay. They may give superficial answers at first. That's teenage. That is their life. The young ones, they think they have it all. But every now and then, they will expand their responses, give you much more. Okay. Moms will tell you this. Sometimes, because they talk to their children, sometimes their children will tell them too much. I'm one of those moms say, too much information. I don't want to hear that. But Richard, research shows that the more often you ask the question, the higher the chances of getting deeper answers. We all know that. And don't ask the yes and no questions, ask open-ended questions. Okay. Could you tell me more about that? Prompting them. You said this. Could you expand on that? What do you mean? Kind of things. Okay. Do remember that this aspect of asking how they really are hangs heavily on your listening skills. This is not the time for you to give your advice. It is time for you now to sharpen those listening skills. The ones I talk to don't feel their dads listen to hear them. These same people, these same young people think that um, their dads just want to talk but not listen. Okay. Remember when one of my episodes when I said, "Oh, you must do this because I said so." It doesn't work for all these children in different environments. It makes them retreat inwardly or maybe reach out for help on social media. And we all know what kind of help they get from there. And this is why some of them actually join gang. They join gangs because they feel those ones listen to them. And so with brotherhood, they have people now who they can easily talk to, which we know sometimes does not go well. So let's talk about the number 4. It is never too late or too early or too late to find out what your child is interested in, especially your sons. Let them know you are interested in what they are interested in. Again, that's a tough one. Okay. Um, um, we must remember that sons tend to be interested in what their dad is interested in. A lot of you dads know that your child wants to be you. At a certain age, they want to be exactly like you. Um, this is because they identify with the dad strongly. There is an interesting twist to this, though. Individuation, we talked about, usually leads many young ones to pursue their own interests away from their dads. Okay? These are maybe interests the dad does not have or the dad does not care for. We have heard dads complain that without a mutual interest, it is hard to bond with their sons. That's not true. Try to get into to learn what they are doing or what they're interested in so that you may help them. I always tell people go in and research. You don't have to know everything. Nobody's expecting dads to know everything. It's impossible. But if you know that interest, go and look into it, just like you look into schools and everything else. Dads need to lean into their children's interests, especially those of the male ones. This includes music styles, technology, businesses, trades, and more and more. Dad and mom, especially the African ones, it is time for you to get into current trends that are impacting your children's era of growth. It really gives me a little bit headache when I hear some African parents say some things like, my children are grown. I don't need XYZ to know that. Or my children will, do that. I don't have to learn XYZ. You forget you're also going to have grandchildren. who are into, for example, technology. Some of our African friends, parents refuse to learn what else is going on in the trendy lives. It is not for you. Do it for the kids. Okay. Um, we move on. Dads, again, introduce your children to role models. That's what could enhance your relationships. Show your children, especially your sons, the types of folks you will encourage them to emulate besides you. Okay. Um, Steve Biddulph, in his book Raising Boys, had these useful insights. And I paraphrase, he says, boys ages 0 to 6 tend to most identify with their moms. Older boys ages 6 to 12 tend to mostly identify with their dads. Teenagers, age 13 plus, tend to mostly identify with older males outside their dad. So this means what? It calls for dads to increase bonding at the years 6 to 12. And if you catch them at that age, dads, you can do no wrong. Your sons will idolize you. Okay? Spend tons of time with them at this period. Create a rite of passage, if you may. So again, 6 to 12 is your period to grab them and make them. If you really want them to be that engineer, you want them to be, or the medical doctor or whatever, this is the time. And you got to like showcase what it is that you want them to emulate. And this is where also, when you have, for example, you have some of them who are going into colleges or into professions that they are new to or that you don't know very well, there are role models who are already in that profession that you can ask your young ones, especially the male ones, to go talk to these people. Okay, all these uncles and aunties we have that are well educated and into this is the time for you to really shepherd this young man towards that role model that you also like. The next one is talking about dads, asking them to teach their children humanity and humility. It's asking dads to teach or make their sons especially understand that real men give more than they take. And what does that mean? It means a lot. Okay? It is never too early to teach them that real men do not use girls. They care for them. That if they are bullies who make others feel small, that real men do not walk over other men. There is no room for bullying. That those who show off are those confused bravados with applause. And by teaching them that the real man is a man of courage, not the courage of bravado, but the courage to do the right thing, even when it's costly to do so. Great dads teach their children, especially their sons, that the real man gives to others, especially the less privileged. He teaches them that the real man cares for women and not beating them up or killing them. They teach their daughters that as well, that you don't beat up men or kill them. There will always be conflict. There will always be disagreement, but not to the point of killing. This is where the dad teaches the young one or young man to lift up his brothers sisters, friends, and neighbors. That a good man protects those who are easy targets for bullies, and he firmly stands for what is right. This is where dad is teaching the young man to stand up for justice, truth, and fairness, even when no one is watching. So these are good things that this young man wants to hear from dad. And while dad is telling their sons what a real man is, they also need to show them what a real man is. What does that mean? Because more is caught by examples. These young people catch what you are telling them to do by the examples that dad shows that can be taught with words, but they learn more from your words, but they learn more from your actions. They learn more from your actions than the words you tell them. That's, remember, your sons watch how you treat their moms and other women, how you speak about those not in the room, how you treat strangers and neighbors alike. They're expecting you to practice what you are preaching to them. They are watching. And in one episode, when I talked about women, I said some of these as well. So it's not one sided. The next point is talking about dads teaching their children sympathy, especially their sons. When you observe an anomaly, let them know immediately and in no means was that action is not acceptable. Take into consideration that there are two parts of the brain responsible for shaping this young human behavior: the accelerator part of the brain and the brake. What does that mean? Um, it has always been documented that this part of the brain, the accelerator part, is the part of the brain that exploits opportunities, pursues excitement and tasks. It takes risks. This type part of the brain takes risks. As against the other side, the brake part of the brain that is responsible for regulating emotions, making complex decisions, and understanding consequences. Sorry. When your son reaches puberty, the accelerator pedal suddenly gets big. That is the part that exploits opportunities, pursuing excitement, taking risks, suddenly gets big for the young man. The growth of the brake is seriously delayed. So for the young men, this completes by the time they are about 24 years of age. So the brake that is supposed to regulate all those risks, excitement, get delayed while the accelerator takes over. And that is when they need you the most. This is why within this period, your children need you. And along with the bonding, this is when they are expecting boundaries from you to be set for them, for you to share the consequences of what they are doing and give them feedback. This is also where they are strongly encouraged to choose their friends well. Remember, this is a period of excitement, and they take unnecessary risks. In my book, Raising an African Child, I had an idiom there, I'd say, which I will paraphrase, um, that the feet that don't touch water doesn't get drowned. Somebody who does not get close to the water doesn't get drowned. And so this is what it's getting back to this stage of their life now. So they are encouraged to choose friends wisely. This is where you also encourage to them to dialogue. This is dialogue time, Dad. when you said something to them and you want response back, it's not a time for lecture. Ditch the lecture this time around. It's a period you allow your son to respond to the issue or to each of the points you are bringing up in the form of a two-way conversation, not because I told you so, you got to do that. All the emotions on your part as dad need to be controlled during this time. Going for a walk together while you are talking or you're having this discussion is encouraged, because sometimes shoulder to shoulder discussions tend to work better than face to face. Some of this time, these young ones think face to face is confrontational, and they're looking at you in the eyes, and you're looking at them, and you know the non-verbal expressions would really be giving signal, dual signals. Do remember that results may not show immediately, so give the interchange, the discussion, chance or time to soak in, because we parents, especially African parents, we wanted the result immediately. It doesn't happen that way in our cases. It might take a day, a week, or a bit longer for what you have discussed to sink in. It is always recommended to ask how the discourse that you had is processing, and how it's going. Maybe you have a second talk, and this second talk may be even more useful to your son than the first one. And you never can tell. You just have to do what you have to do. They need. Um, this one, the last point on this screen says, dads, consistently tell your children you love them, especially your sons. Let them know you are there for them. They need to hear this from you. Just like you need to hear it from them. I love you, dad. And they say, I love you, son. That's a mutual thing. That means you have to be there, build a comfort zone so that, telling them you love them could be, you know, um, something of an expression that is not forced. Okay. Think of different ways to tell them you love them. So granted, some men don't are not prone to saying I love you because some of them never got I love you from their own dad. So they don't even know how to do that. So, but some of them have learned to do that. They do opposite of what they got from their dad they didn't like. But think of different ways you can show that you love. Children are not dumb. The young ones, they understand. Oh, this is a way of dad showing his love. He may not say it, but he's showing it. You could even say that or show them when they're not even expecting it. You just do that. But make sure you don't embarrass them in front of their, friends. Like, try to hug them when they don't really need that at that point. Write your feelings in cards if you're not the one to talk or that can talk to say I love you in the mouth. Um, Use the emails, write notes, use the messenger if you are on any social media aspect. Text messages, can work. Other ways that you can think of. You are encouraged not just say I love you by word of mouth, but be there in mind and body. They will know the fake from the real thing. Believe me, these children are very sensitive. Our children know when we are not completely present and giving them our undivided attention. They could sense that, they could feel that. So, dads, please set aside time to consciously engage with your kids. Few minutes to hours a day will not wreck any schedules. Get some of those things out. You don't have to go to every meeting on earth. And the end of it all, please know your son does not need a perfect dad. You don't have to be perfect. He mainly needs a loving and available dad that listens. So they don't need a perfect dad, like I said. Okay. So at this point also, it takes two to tango, like I always say. This is also a part where the listener to these young complaints, on my part, I am saying to you, young Africans, um, you have You have work to do. You have your own part to uphold. And what do I mean by that? I encourage you to not fear your dads. Okay? Fear not. Your dads love you and will be there for you if and when you need them. You got to just have to show them that you need them. Tell them they are never far away. They are your proteges. They protect with bows and arrows drawn in case danger looms. There is this story, a Native American story. One of their rites of passage is when a child gets to a certain age, I think it's 16 or something, they take them to the, dense forest and leave them there to stay overnight. And, the legend has it that they have, all types of dangerous animals in there, and you are left alone in the dark. There's no light and all that. So one of these, the kids there, they will get so afraid and, scared of what looms around them. They hear all types of noises going on, and they think they will be dead by the morning. And gradually, as they are, dying of, fear and all that, morning sun comes up, and they look around, and the first thing they will see is the dad with a bow and arrow standing there. The dad had stood there from the moment the child got into the forest till this morning, making sure no danger happens, descends on the child. And so this is the story of that legend, of that, rite of passage. But the good thing out of it is that the child, the first thing that he gets to see in the morning is the dad standing there protecting, making sure that nothing. So always know, let them know that I know you I need you to know that your dads are like those, legend stories that the dad has the bows and arrows drawn in case of any danger to the child. Remember that dads and sons and everyone for that matter need each other more than they can know. So it's not one-sided. Your dad needs you as you need your child. So seize the day to bond. Life is short. They are older and you are younger. It's not that people like, die from, young age to old age or old age to young age. Anything can happen anytime. But we know that with aging, your parents are not there forever. So cherish the one you have and try to bond with them, because very soon they may no longer be around you, and what you have is memory. It may be hard to hear, but dads need your, children's unconditional love as much as they need, those of their sons. Okay. So if your dad is not as strong as other dads you admire, forgive him. Not all dads have um, all that gooey, nice demeanor in them. They don't mean, bad. They just don't have that. So forgive them and take them for who they are. Be inspired by his qualities. I always tell you guys, nobody is born with nothing good in them. There is always something good in someone. You may not like what it is, but somebody else may or might like what it is. So no one is completely hopeless. Okay. So be inspired and look at the bright side. What is it good that you admire about your dad? Just learn from his weaknesses and failures. That's all. Those things he's not doing well. But let him know that you observe those. Keep engaging your parents or especially your dad in your growth process, no matter how or what you think you know better than them. Because some of these, you young ones, you always think you know everything. Yeah, we like the fact that you know, but please understand that you can always ask questions. Do remember they grew up in a world quite different from yours. So what they may be sharing with you is what they know. They don't know your world. But this is where you also teach them your world and be patient about it because they've already lived. They're trying to do the best they can with what they know and what they were taught. So bear with them. And for that matter, communication is always the key. Talk to your dad, share your wishes, and also listen to his thoughts. What does he mean by you must not be a rap artist or something? Ask the question, wouldn't you like me to be that? And this is where you really explain yourself and get the clarification. Maybe there's something they don't understand. That's what we're saying. Okay. In summary, I would like to put, actually paraphrase Glenn T. Stanton. He is the director of Global Family Formation Studies that focus on the family. He had this to say: a father's role in the life of his son is paramount. He is the one who must pin the badge of manhood on his son and does so in 100 different ways well into his son's adulthood. If dad is not there, another significant man in the boy's life must. What does he mean by that? He meant that a male figure is required, is essential to a young man's growth. So, all the dads out there who think, oh, you've given birth to that boy and that's it, that's not doing him a favor if you're not around to ask him or touch on those points that we already talked about. Be there as a dad through thick and thin while leading your son to manhood. We're not asking you to, do something that is nobody has done before, but help your son to develop confidence. It is scary that he hears about becoming a man in the society outside of the home, especially from his peers. That may not be correct. He wonders if what he hears could be it takes to be a good and strong man. They may be teaching him wrong. Okay? So help him to navigate and express his emotions. It is a powerful thing when you, as a dad, is open and vulnerable with your emotions and you allow your son to be open with you too. Okay? Teach him that boys cry, men cry, and that is not at all anything weak to do. Teach your boys or your men, young men, and all your children the virtue of perseverance by being an example. Provide constant encouragement, a pat on the back. You're doing well. I'm proud of you. You go. Little things like that. You see them beaming and doing more. They're jumping. Some of us had that from our parents from early age, and we never forget, even when they're no longer around us. We are living in that memory, that encouragement that we're given, the inspiration and all that. Okay. Show unconditional love that is never dependent on anything else. They don't owe you anything. So don't be, okay, well, do this so that you will be able to do this and do for me. Just give them that love unconditionally and watch it manifest into things you don't even think of. That is good. Introduce and recommend your son to other men who will become his role models, his encouragers. They become his guides. They become mentors and coaches. And show your son that there is a difference between you and their mom. Let me repeat that. There is a difference between you, the dad, and his mom. Dad is dad, mom is mom. And we're not going to, there's no way we can explain it, deeper than that. You are a dad. You're different from mom. There are certain things they want from you. There are certain things they want from mom. Even in single family homes where the mom is the only one raising the boys, you see the difference. The boys have to benefit from another male figure to be the dad. Okay. Just the opposite is also where dads are the only figure in the daughter's life. They will look for other women. I have been privileged to do that. I have some families who say, well, Dr. Paraji, could you be my child's mentor, my children's mentors? And I am so grateful to those ladies. There have been a few of them, really quite a few, who welcome me into their children's lives, men and women. And I have taken it as a challenge. I'm there for them. I listen, I talk, but I treat them like my own without mincing words and being there for them. And they always are great kids. Thank God for that. We must remember what has been said by an anthropologist that women create all human life, but only men can turn boys into men the world needs tomorrow. Remember that. And Robert Bly said it even better. Women can change the embryo to a boy, but only men can change the boy into a man. And we cannot say that too much. um, Remember that your sons um, and all the children, they need each other. You need each other. So at this point, I think I've made my point here on behalf of the young um, African child or children who complain about the relationship they're having with their dads. And dads are not singled out. They have their own complaints for moms as well. And in some episodes ago, I mentioned those, and I'm going to do that some more. So think to yourself, do you have a good relationship with your children? Do you even have any relationship with them, especially the boys? If not, it's never a bad time to start. It's always good to start somewhere, whether you start early or late, provided you started. And God bless you guys as you do. And happy Father's Day on this day. And we wish you good health, longevity, and everything else. We encourage you to take care of you and exercise and eat well and maintain a good lifestyle. And God bless you as you do. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And again, please continue to subscribe or send stars. We are on YouTube, on all the podcasts of where you find other podcasts, actually, especially Amazon and I forgot the other ones, but they're all there, including Instagram. Okay. Thank you again for listening. This is your hostess or host, Maslena, Dr. Maslena NDISCO'S, bidding you a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.